All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome, welcome. Today is Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. And this is your host, A Deeper PTE. Welcome. Welcome to the channel, you guys. Hey, everybody in chat. It's good to have you. Yes, we did just start. You're right on time. Right on time. Welcome, everybody. It is so good to have you. So, this show is finally here. I hope everybody who wanted to see this show has an opportunity to get here. So, I'm just going to stall just a little bit to let that happen. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Um, so, just to kind of do a little bit of stalling, this is essentially the follow up show and fortification of a theory of another live stream I did on this channel called God Being a Woman Changes Everything. And it really does. And many of you enjoyed that one. I enjoyed that one as well. For whatever reason, though, they won't put up the live chat from that live stream. That was 10 months ago. And I wrote and I was like, I know it's done processing now. It's got to be finished. But they will not put it up. And I didn't get into the habit of recording back then. So it's literally gone forever. And I'm so sad about it. But it's okay because I actually did an after show for that one. I think I'll do an after show for this one too, for that very reason. So I have a few, but the majority are gone. It's so sad. I know it's devastating to my soul. But it's okay because y'all still got the main takeaway from that message. So, welcome. Why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it? So, this show is called The Divine Custody Battle. And essentially, what we're going to be getting into tonight is kind of more behind this divine custody battle. This stream is going to start off kind of light, and I think we're going to end up way deeper than anyone expected. Because even as I was putting together the notes, I was like, this is going to start off pretty lighthearted, and we're going to end up in a real deep end of the pool. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I love it. Just to put up a quick disclaimer so everyone knows where they are, this channel is very different from my main channel, Permission to Exist. Over here, we explore the far out, the unproven, the religious, the spiritual, and the occasional controversial. The majority of this channel's content is based in opinion and speculation, not facts, and not historical fact either. I should update that to say that. So please do your own research, come to your own fact-based conclusions, and we all thank you so very much. Management thanks you for your participation, okay? So let me see if I remove this. Yay, okay, perfect. Welcome, everyone. All right, so why don't we get into the show? This might be a long one, so hopefully you didn't have anything to do tonight. Why don't I do a brief recap of the theory? This is mainly for those who either didn't see that other live stream or who are just new to the channel altogether. And it's also for those, let me say this also, people who grew up in church or churches, people who maybe are religious or spiritual, but always had questions or maybe even had doubts. It's for people who doubted the stories that we've been told, the religious stories, the spiritual stories. Not doubt in that you don't have faith. You have faith that something is there and you have faith that something is going on, but you may not necessarily believe the stories or their interpretations as they've been told. This stream is also for people who are just flat out curious, the weirdos, and the people who research things heavily, okay, and are just always looking for those little tidbits, okay? So welcome to all of the above. All right, so a brief recap of the theory from that other live stream, and then we'll get into this show's content. My basic theory is this. So coming up, and I grew up in church, been baptized, all that. Obviously, we were raised to believe in a masculine God, a father God, you know what I mean, all throughout the Bible. And it's for the most part pretty much like that in almost every major religion. Masculine, male God. Yes, some gods have, or excuse me, some religions have feminine deities and goddesses and saints and things like that. But for the most part, we were taught that God is a man. And I think this is something that we accepted, because who are we to argue, right? It's something I accepted. My mind didn't start changing on this until like about a year or two ago. And the reason it started changing is actually what's going to take us deeper a little bit later. But it really is rooted in me trying to understand this contempt for women. So we'll get into that later. But much meditation, and I actually meditated on this theory for about a year before I shared it with you guys. My theory is that, yes, indeed, there is a God, but there's not just the one, there are two. There's a mother God and there's a father God, which makes sense, doesn't it? As above, so below. Pretty much everything in creation has a male and female component to it, with the exception of a few creatures that I can't think of right away. But for the most part, there's male and female come together to reproduce. So why would it be any different in the spiritual, right? So there's that. So it was Mother God and Father Satan. Satan was not always evil, as the Bible says. Satan was God's, I believe, right hand angel, if I'm not mistaken. Satan like ran the kingdom of heaven. He had multiple duties. He was charged with a lot of different responsibilities, including music, um, things like that. So he did not start off as the devil that we know him as. Satan was like God's favorite angel. And if you think about it in the context of Mother God and Father Satan, well, wouldn't it make sense that God's husband would be running heaven for the most part? And isn't that kind of sort of how it's like on earth? For anyone who's being honest, and for those relationships that end up relatively healthy, don't the men always say that the wife runs the house? If they're not like threatened, if their masculinity isn't easily threatened and they don't feel the need to subscribe to all these societal norms, don't they always say that? If she's not happy, nobody in the house is happy, that mama runs the house. So basically, it seems that the woman of the house gives the barking orders and everyone else complies. That's what it seems like. You all who've lived in that situation will have to tell me, because I only have my family situation to compare to. And my mother did not give barking orders, but I think it's interesting because, quite simply, if she was displeased with something, really that was enough for it to change. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't. But my mom didn't bark. She wasn't an aggressive woman. She's still with us. I don't mean to say past tense. I don't mean to speak in past tense. The reason I'm speaking past tense is because I don't live with them anymore. When I speak in past tense, I'm referring to the time I spent living with my parents. She wasn't an aggressive or mean woman or anything. She's actually quite genteel. But when she was displeased with something, it didn't take long for my father to go out and fix it and correct it. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? So anyway, so everything was fine initially. Then everything started to change when the children who would be what we consider modern day human, Adam and Eve, things changed when Adam and Eve were born, because Adam and Eve were different from everybody and everything else that Satan and God created. They created universes, galaxies, planets, metals, you know what I mean? Stars. They may have created the angels, I'm not sure, but if they created the angels, they literally created them. They did not reproduce them in the way that they reproduce humans. That I haven't decided on. I didn't have my mind made up in that other live stream, and I don't have it made up now at what stage the angels came in. But everything was fine though. And it almost seems to me like they would have created the angels to basically serve them. So it's husband and wife. They're creating all this stuff. They need someone to help them take care of it. So they made the angels. The humans were different because the humans were not designed to serve, although the Christian fundamentalists would argue and say different. They would say that our sole duty here on earth is to serve and worship God. And it is, but not like how you think. And that's kind of a different stream. What I mean is, angels are bound by their duty. You're not necessarily bound by your worship. Different stream, okay? Once the kids were born, Adam and Eve, everything changed. Because just like it happens in human women, when Adam and Eve were born, something changed in God. It brought out a different side of God that Satan had never seen, and probably no one in heaven had ever seen before, ever either. She'd never even seen it. It brought out an unusual love in her, an unconditional love, a forgiving love that maybe she didn't have for everybody else. Maybe she only had it for Adam and Eve. Maybe she views them as uniquely innocent in all of this. I'm not sure. But at any rate, her relationship with Adam and Eve spawned a wicked and jealous hatred in Satan like the world has never seen before and will never see again. And this hatred, well, before I go there, and don't we see that happen in human relationships? Don't we often hear the complaint from new fathers that, quote, she was giving all her attention to the baby, end quote. And the woman is sitting off to the side like, are you serious right now? Like, I'm trying to keep it alive. Also, this is kind of like a miracle, and I'm intrigued and in awe. And I'm sorry if I can't go back to serving you in the way that I used to. This is temporary. That's the other reason that women really go all in during that time frame, because this is temporary. This newborn is temporary. This 1 month old is temporary. This 6 month old is temporary. Like, this whole entire time frame is temporary. So they want to cherish it and take in as much of the moment as they can. And unfortunately, a lot of men don't understand that. And when the children are born, it breaks up a lot of marriages here on earth. As above, so below. So when Adam and Eve were born, it spawned and sparked an insanely wild, jealous rage out of Satan. And it also eventually, because his behavior got so bad in heaven, it sparked the war in heaven that we're going to talk about here in a second. Okay? So after he got kicked out, once he started this war in heaven, he went on this journey and embarked on this mission to destroy not only God, but all of her children that she loves so much, right? So here's where where the wheat and the tare principle comes out. And I don't want to confuse myself or you guys, but essentially, Satan's goal is to trick as many of God's children, her real children, as possible, and really possibly trick as many of their children. So Satan's goal is to trick as many of their kids as possible to join him and come with him in the end. So I told you guys this is going to start off kind of light and we're going to get deeper. So that's kind of the summary of the theory, okay, from that other live stream. Now, and this is kind of sort of a separate show, but I'll go ahead and say it now. No one has gone to heaven yet or hell. Nobody's there yet. And the reason that nobody's there yet is because we have not actually had Judgment Day yet. So you would say, PTE, well, what about all the people who've already died? Well, in many ways, just like the Bible says, they're simply asleep. And if you slept for 30 years, yeah, your body would rot too. And then you would say, no, the people who died, violent deaths, and, they were really injured and they couldn't survive it. Well, yeah, their body definitely shut down, but spiritually, they're simply asleep, because what I've come to understand, you guys, is there is a part 2 to all of this. So if you unfortunately were to die today, you are simply in a state of deep neurological sleep. You're like in the deepest neurological sleep available. the one that you can't wake up out of, basically. That's how far gone you are. And I know you've seen people sleep before who you joke like it's like they're the sleeping dead, or it's like they sleep like the dead. Like you could lift their arm up and it just drops. You could roll them over, nothing. You could smack them on their face a little bit, nothing. Like they're gone, right? Now, luckily, they're still alive, but essentially what I've come to understand is there is a part two to life. And that is why this is so serious. And that is why this is so important. This spiritual thing and who we decide to be and who we choose to be, because we all think we just die. We hope we go to heaven. We get judged the day that we get there, and then we just dwell in heaven and wait for our friends and family to show up. That's not what happens, guys. That's not what's going to happen, I don't think. If you died today and Judgment Day hasn't happened yet, essentially you're in a state of deep neurological sleep until Judgment Day arrives. And Judgment Day is essentially what you see on your screen right now. Judgment Day is the day that you get to decide, do you go with mom or do you go with dad? To live in eternity, which is part two. Whew, it's so deep, okay? So that's why it's so critical to save as many souls as possible. But here's the issue. If you don't know, and this is why I feel so compelled to share this, because again, I meditated on this theory for like a year. And then after meditating on it for a year, Spirit finally said, okay, now you can tell them. It's so critical because there's a part two and there's no recovery from it. So there's a part two and there's no bailout. There's a part two and there's no salvation. There's a part two and there's no negotiating. There's a part two and there's no coming back from it, basically. And everyone thinks that's death. Everyone thinks, okay, if you die, then that's the moment that you don't come back. No, I think what the Bible is trying to tell us is that even those who are dead are going to rise first. The Bible says the dead in Christ shall rise first. They are going to be brought back for judgment. We're all going to be judged. And essentially what we're going to be judged on is, who are you going with? Are you going with mom or dad? So now this begs another series of questions. Some of you might be thinking, well, PTE, are you trying to say then that men are evil and women are good? And the answer to your question is no. The answer to your question is there are good men and bad men, and there are good women and bad women. The good men and the good women are going to go with their mother, and the bad men and the bad women are going to go with their father. And it's unfortunate that the genders are separated in this way. But let's just say, for argument's sake, if these were two statues of two women figures, well, what I'd be trying to tell you is that one of your mommies is evil and one of your mommies is good. That's what I would be trying to tell you. Or let's say, for argument's sake, there's two male statues. Well, what I'm trying to tell you then is one of your daddies is good and one of your daddies is bad. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So it's unfortunate that it shakes out this way, but I'm going to tell you more about why I feel the God portion of this conversation is indeed a woman. And it's not to get into any kind of gender war or anything like that. It's from what I've been seeing lately. And I'm going to share that with you, and we're going to go into that. Okay. So we've kind of caught up on that. I've kind of answered some questions that might already be on your mind. Let me see. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Let me say this before we continue. Somewhere on this channel, A Deeper PTE, on one of these streams, I told you guys that I said that I believe the final war will be between men and women. And I really do believe that. more and more each day. And it's unfortunate and it's so sad to see it happening. But God, it's kind of a separate stream. But this is kind of more what I mean. Okay. So let us get into a little bit. Let's go a little bit deeper then. Okay. Question in the chat says, have I ever studied Taoism? No, I haven't. Or if I have, I didn't mean to. I didn't know I was doing it. I mean, meaning like I watched a YouTube video or something on it. Okay. So can I make this a little bit bigger for y'all? Let's see. Boom. Perfect. Okay. We're actually going to read all of this. So this is Revelation 12 in the King James Version Bible. And it matters, and it all matters, actually. And I'm going to tell you how this particular piece of the theory plays into the overall theory of this divine custody battle situation. And it will explain a little bit more why I believe God, the Godhead, is actually a woman, and Satan is basically her ex-husband who's getting ready to get kicked out forever. So right now, Satan is basically under a restraining order, okay, on his way to prison if he violates the restraining order, which he essentially has. He hasn't, but he has. He knows he's getting locked up for life, and there's a restraining order on him right now. But even with this restraining order, he's causing crazy chaos and destruction in the world, okay? So I'm going to read Revelation 12 and get into why I believe this is all the case, okay? Again, this is for the Bible believers and people who kind of grew up in a religious household, okay? Here we go. Revelation 12, King James Version. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the seal, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Okay? Woo! So there is a lot to unpack in here. All right? Tons. But before I show you that one, I want to show you another scripture that hopefully puts all of this into context. So this is Genesis 3:15 from the King James Version. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Okay? So when we're looking at this woman, who is the woman? So at this point in Genesis, they were talking about Eve, essentially, right? So if I pulled this whole entire chapter, I believe they're in the Garden of Eden at this point. Can I just see the whole chapter? Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, they were in the garden. Yeah. And I pulled this one from down here, 3:15. So it says, and the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise its heel. So it kind of makes you wonder, what woman, right? What woman exactly? What woman are they talking about? People will say Eve, then people will come back and say Israel. They'll say, oh, well, they're talking about the church. You know, every time they're talking about the woman or talking about the bride, they're talking about the church, you know, and God is coming for the bride, which is the church. And it's like, okay, we're having to make a lot of reaches here, but okay. A bride is a church. The woman is a church. Everything is anything but a woman. Everything is anything but. But there's a couple of things that I want to pull out from Revelation 12 that I think might make it become more clear to you. First of all, there was a war in heaven. And I believe this war, and this comes from, where is it? This is Revelation 12:7. And there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. But guys, this is after the woman fled to the wilderness. So here's the revelation that I got when I studied this particular chapter, or this chapter. Satan had lost control to such a degree and had gotten so wild and out of control. And God was pregnant with who I believe was actually Jesus. So when we think about where does Jesus come in all of this, she was pregnant with Jesus. She gave birth to Jesus first, and then she ran, because it says, and she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. This part, of course, you know, some people would say would nullify my theory, but I don't think so. And then it says, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. So it sounds like Satan was losing his mind, wiling out in heaven, going completely nuts. God gives birth to Jesus and runs to the wilderness, where she still is, I believe. Okay. Michael, the angel Michael, fought Satan and cast him out of heaven down to earth. And when he did, Satan took 1/3 of the angels with him. Now, these aren't the fallen angels, I don't think, you guys, and this is important. And where does it say that? It says the tail drew 1/3 of the stars. Where is that? Where is it? Am I looking right over it? No, it's up here, I think. Yeah. It says, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars in heaven, and did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So, this third that he drew and threw down, I don't think those are the fallen angels. Those aren't his angels. Those are God's angels that accidentally got drugged down with him. So when they were fighting, he accidentally knocked them down. So why is any of this important? And also, by the way, I believe God is still in hiding because he really wants to kill her. It's not us that he's after her. So she's still in hiding in this wilderness area, preparing to come back, I believe. But anyway, this matters because think about it. If only Satan and his wicked angels got thrown down to earth with him, why would God be trying to capture anybody? Doesn't Jesus say in the Bible that he's only come for the lost sheep of Israel? For the house of the lost sheep of Israel? Instead of guessing, why don't we know? We're here. We could know instead of guessing. Oops. I have only come. Sorry, my keyboard's in a weird place. Let me just put it in a good place. Here we go. For the house. Let me see here. Let's take this part out. Here it is right here. It's Matthew 15:24. And this is Jesus speaking. It says, but he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So if all of this is true, and if my interpretation is correct, basically that house of the lost sheep is this 1/3 that got swept down by mistake when this war in heaven occurred. Do you understand what I'm saying? So let me summarize it all. Let me put it into one complete sentence. So we've already summarized the first half of the theory, which is that God is a woman, Satan is a man. They were husband and wife. All was well until she had the children. This sparked an insane, jealous rage in him that caused him to go basically on a war path against her. And he was successful in starting this war while she was pregnant with who we believe might have been Jesus. She gives birth to Jesus. Jesus gets snatched away to safety somehow. This is all according to Revelation 12. Archangel Michael fights Satan, throws him down to earth. When Satan gets thrown to earth, he accidentally takes 1/3 of the stars with him. It was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen. So Jesus, that baby that was born before God fled to the wilderness, when he returned, let's see what they actually asked him. Let's pull all of Matthew 15. It says, it doesn't look like anyone asked him anything. It says, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Who are the lost sheep? That 1/3 that got snatched down by mistake when this war started. Because otherwise, why would God care? If only Satan and his angels got thrown down to earth, we'll put a dome cap over him and move on with life. Great. We got rid of him. We got rid of his wicked angels, put a cap over him, and move on with life. The reason that God is even concerned is because some of God's children got caught here on earth. So that brings us there. All right. Is everybody with me so far? Is it making sense? All right. Red, I think you may have wandered onto the wrong channel, hon. We're not on Permission to Exist. We're on A Deeper PTE. So this is where we are with this. Okay. Now, let me get into a little bit of why I feel so strongly about the gender component of all of this. Okay. Some of you may or may not be aware, but currently there is this violent attack against women in our society. If you don't spend a lot of time on the internet, you would have no idea. You'd honestly have no clue. And some might argue and say, well, the internet is a cesspool, PTE, and people bring out their worst behavior in chat rooms, and that's not who they really are in person. They're really good people. They just, use the internet to vent. But if you've been studying and watching for as long as I have, you start to develop something called a zeitgeist. So let me actually look this word up for you and display the definition. So you'll know what I'm talking about. Oh, perfect. All right, so let me take this off. So zeitgeist, the defining spirit or mood of a particular period of history as shown by the ideas and beliefs of the time. Okay, so when you've been studying the ideas and beliefs of the time as long as I have, and reading the innermost thoughts of people on a variety of different topics. I don't just go to like a video on men and women and read those comments. That would be silly. I might go to a video talking about, or not even a video, sometimes just articles or whatever, talking about various different topics. Like, for example, I'll just use the example of an earthquake. I might go read an article on an earthquake, and without fail, somewhere in the chat thread, somebody will say something to the effect of, feminism caused this earthquake. And I'm like, what? Wow. Then some of you, I'm sure many of you listening right now, are familiar with Kwame Brown and his recent rise to popularity, right? And how he's been going in on characters such as Charlemagne the God, Stephen A. Smith, and other high-profile celebrities. And when he first started posting videos, and he's been doing it for a while, just nobody knew. But I was watching at first and I was like, wow. I was like, he's got a lot to say. He's making a lot of sense, right? So I'm watching and listening. And then all of a sudden I start to hear things like, yeah, you women need to get it back together. You women need to get back in order. You women like to insert yourself in men's business. And you women need to learn how to stay in women's business. And women need to learn how to show some respect. And I was like, oh, do tell more. And he'll start a video going in about his stats, about how he's not a bust. How could a bust play 12 seasons? On and on and on and on and on. And then all of a sudden it'll be like, yeah, but you women got real grand these days. You women need to get back in line. But yeah, man, I was scoring 6 points per game and and it's like, wow, interesting insertion. Very, very interesting insertion. Interesting. And then I found out he was friends with Tommy Sotomayor. Then I found out they've already done shows together. Yup. And then the agenda started to become very, very, very clear to me. This has nothing to do with him, Charlemagne, Stephen A. It has nothing to do with any of that. This is another arm of their wing. This is another arm of the beast They've raised up a new one. They said, well, maybe they'll listen to you, Kwame. Maybe they'll listen to you. They won't listen to us anymore, but maybe they'll listen to you, especially if you wedge it and sandwich it in between criticism of high profile men. Yeah. Embedding a little agenda in there. I see that. Man, the disappointment was palpable too. He went on a tangent about single mothers and, having all these children out of wedlock. But correct me if I'm wrong, he himself has children out of wedlock, yes? As most athletes do. So you've already created the problem, then you lecture about the problem. So I see you, I'm on to you. And you are actually part of the reason that this whole live stream is happening now. Because I'm like, oh, y'all are after us. Ladies, to any of my ladies listening, you noticed that too, right? Mm-hmm. And I planned on saying this in this live stream, and I mean it. Ladies, to my ladies listening, I understand that you might feel a certain way about firearms. I understand because, believe me, for many years, I felt the same way. I didn't want to be near one. I didn't want one in my house. I didn't want to be near people who had guns, even if I trusted them. I didn't want to be anywhere near it, didn't like it. Don't put it on the counter. I don't want it pointing towards me. I don't even want to walk in front of it because in my mind, it's like a little bomb that can go off at any time, which it kind of is, sort of, but they're not designed quite like that anymore. We're not stuffing gunpowder down barrels with little cannonballs anymore. You feel me? Ladies, this is from me to you. Invest in a firearm and firearms classes and learn how to use your gun and be comfortable with your gun and don't be scared of it anymore. I'm so serious. Spirit has put this strongly on my soul because I cannot fully comprehend what they're trying to accomplish. Like literally they spend day in and day out lecturing, particularly Black women, but I'm not going to make it racial tonight. I'm actually going to devote something entirely separate to the race issue of this issue. They devote endless hours to the lecturing of women. But my question is, to what end, though? What are you actually trying to achieve? And when I meditate on that question, I can only come up with a couple of answers. One, they're trying to recruit men, which they are, in droves, which is why I'm telling you, ladies, I understand you don't want a gun in your house. I get it. But trust me, if you must, just keep one bullet in the magazine. Keep one in the chamber and one in the magazine. Two total. That's it. So if you mess up, you only have 2 opportunities to mess up, and that's it. You don't have to keep it fully loaded. But ladies, I'm not playing with you. I'm not playing with you. There are too many men right now being converted to the pure hatred of you. And I've told you this before. And I'm telling you again, and this is from my heart, they hate you. Many of you without cause. Many of you have daughters who are already hated. They haven't done anything. They haven't been in a relationship. They haven't ended a relationship. Nothing. They've never cheated on anybody because they've never been in relationships. They don't have babies. They literally are starting out fresh. They already hate your daughters and already have a strong position and a strong mindset against your daughters. Your daughters are in danger. You are in danger, but not as much as your girls are. Because, after a certain age, they think we're completely and totally worthless. So think about this. If everything started to go down, and if something really started to pop off outside, they will look at you, Mrs. over the age of 30, as worthless and not worth saving, and will either let you die or kill you themselves because you're worthless. And if this sounds extreme to you, you haven't spent the time. I was almost going to pull up a comment thread and just scroll through it so you can read it. We can read it together. And we might do that on a different stream because I need you to understand how bad it is. I really do. Okay. They have a profound hatred towards you, But this hatred is not so much to where they won't find a way to get what they can from you. So they hate you, but not so much that they won't extract time, money, effort, energy. Do you understand? This is why they cap out when they get rejected by women, and especially certain types of women, because how dare you, you low life female, you scum bottom dwelling female, how dare you, you worthless female, reject me? And this is really the wake up call I'm trying to get you to see. It's the root of why I believe this overall theory is true. It's like, why are y'all trying to get so many people to actually literally hate women? Why? Does she remind you of somebody? Does she remind you of the one who kicked you out of heaven forever and won't let you come back? Because that's all I can think of. When I strongly meditate on this, I'm like, there is a profound hatred for not only the woman, but for the Black woman as well. And my white viewers may not know that. You may, but you may not. You may not know how deep it goes, because I don't imagine that you spend a lot of time in those environments, so you don't know. Like, I don't, well, anyway, different show. My point is, why the active recruitment and encouraging? Because here's the thing. If someone is that insufferable, you'll learn to hate them on your own. You understand? Why do you have to teach people how to hate women? You have to open their eyes to it. You have to recruit them into the lifestyle of the hatred of women. Yeah, and it does go back to the Catholic Church and Catholicism. It sure does. And doesn't the Bible also say that in the last days, everything will be upside down and reversed? So it tickles me when I listen to the various camps on the internet that do different types of preaching and things, and they're intent on overthrowing one kingdom. They rely on the scripture. Esau is the end of that kingdom, and Jacob is the kingdom that follows, or something like that. And they have these fantasies of finally being back in charge as men. And I'm like, what planet do you live on? Men are in charge now, honey. Men are in charge now. So how, on the one hand, can you say feminism has destroyed the world, but then at the same time, like, men are still in charge, though? I don't get it. Like, it's a backwards, it's a strain. So, okay, let's start over. Let me back up. If things are going to get put back in proper order, and right now men are actually in charge, well, things go back in order. You think men are going to be in charge again? Like, it kind of doesn't make sense. It seems like right now the world's out of order because of this. And listen, I'm not saying women are natural born leaders, because I've dealt with a lot of women who are total nightmares. Total nightmares. I'm not saying women naturally take on great leadership roles. What I'm saying is, y'all have been nothing but in charge. So don't you think it'll flip when things go back to normal? There's that. But there's also this issue of the last shall be the first. Last shall be the first. And I'm not going to answer this because I want y'all to meditate on this. But if you really think about who the last really is, who the last really is, it's going to scare you, because then you're going to understand who the first then becomes. Who is the last in our world? Who is the last in American society? Who's considered bottom of the barrel? Who's considered the lowest of the low, truly, if you really stop and think about it? So if that person is the last, and people actively make that person the last, then what do you think's coming when everything flips? Okay. So I say this, it's kind of like a warning, but it's also something I want y'all to start paying attention to. I don't hate men. I don't dislike men. I've always liked men. As far back as I can remember, I've had crushes, you know what I mean? Like on boys in school, and then, coming up through school, whatever. I don't dislike men. I'm concerned because I've seen a turn and a change that I didn't expect. It's made me very uncomfortable around men I even used to trust because I can see the influence. I can see the conversations seeping into their head. And just like the people who rushed the Capitol on January 6th, just like I was saying during that time frame, there's nowhere else for those thoughts to go. You're super angry, angry, angry. All you do is tell yourself all day, women destroy the country, women rule the world, women run the country, women take everything from men, women just get married just so they can divorce men and take all their money, women can't raise children, women can't raise boys, all women are sluts, all women are whores, all these whores, and then they go after Chads and they reject, or Tyrones, and they reject me, and like that anger just builds and builds and builds and mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts. You join groups, you join clubs, YouTube channels, Facebook groups, all devoted to the destruction of one person. That sounds really personal, doesn't it? It used to make me real upset until I realized, oh, they're angry with one person. They're angry at one person. One. They're angry with one person. The Most High God. And can you imagine on Judgment Day, they say that the Bible says that there'll be wonders in the sky that pretty much nobody can deny. If you're alive, living and breathing, and you have eyes, you're going to stop what you're doing to pay attention to what's going on. Can you imagine if there is a man and a woman standing there saying, "Come home to me, my child. Come to me, my child." Can you imagine how many people are going to go, I ain't going to no woman. I ain't going to no woman. Man, my God is a man. My all praises to the Most High. My God is a man. I'm going with him. I don't know who this woman is. That's feminism over there. Look at that feminism. Boo. Ain't nobody going with you. We don't know who you are. Who are you? And she's like, I'm your mother. Child, come to me, please. Come to me. And the majority of people are going to go with him. The majority of people are going to go with him. That's why I think only 144,000 end up in heaven with God. Only 144,000 out of the millions and billions of people that are here on earth. Makes sense, because when she finally shows herself and says, this person that you've been worshiping, that you've been following, is yes, indeed, one of your gods. Yes, indeed, he's your daddy. But you have a mom, you have a mother who loves you, who has always loved you. You see, always, always wanted the best for you, always tried to lead you in the right direction. I never intended for any of you to die. Isn't that what the Bible says? It's not my will that anyone should perish. Like a mom, just like a mother. She doesn't want any of her kids to die. But you got to think about it like this. She's already been betrayed before. Her angels turned on her, the ones that she really truly thought were loyal to her and had her back. So she has to filter her children to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen again, to make sure that she has filtered out the bad seed. Just like those of you who have children, if you were being honest, some of your kids are good and some of your kids are probably bad, and you know it. And you've probably done a lot to help them move out of your house, right? To those of you who are listening, have you ever known of anyone to put a child out of their house and tell that child that they're not welcome back? And the child actually deserved it. I mean, not like abusive parents, not narcissistic parents. Wait, what was I saying? Hold on 1 second. I need to back my thoughts up. Not an abusive child or a narcissistic child. Wait, no, what am I trying to say? Have you ever known a set of good parents who were actually good parents who ended up putting out basically a demon seed child and telling that child, you're not welcome back? It's the same thing. Like, you cannot tear up my house. You can't. Just because I love you doesn't mean that you can tear up my house. Just because I love you doesn't mean you can disrespect me. Just because I love you doesn't mean you can defy and go against my rules. You see, that's kind of where God is. God doesn't want to send any of her children to the pit with this psychopath. But I think God also sees it as, if you if you vibe more with your psychopathic daddy, then yeah, you do need to go live with him. Y'all are of the same energy. Like, y'all are the same person basically. So I think y'all will do much better together over there, or really under there, than up here. We have rules. Up here we have order. Up here we do things a certain way for the best results. See, one of Satan's problems is Satan doesn't like to follow the rules, because Satan wants to do whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. Now that creates a very fun person, but it also creates a person who is always getting themselves hurt, getting themselves in trouble, getting themselves in situations they can't get themselves out of because they have no foresight. They don't think ahead. They don't think about the consequences. So Satan wants to live wild and loose and free, and he wants his children to do the same. But every time he encourages his children to do that, he gets his children in trouble that God then has to come bail her children out of. You see what I mean? Satan is like the father who's like talking to his 14-year-old son, saying, yeah, son, go ahead and drive the car, and here's a beer, have at it. And the 14-year-old is like, Dad, really? He's like, yeah, you're a man now. Real men drive cars. Real men drink beer. Go for it, kiddo. He's like, but Dad, I don't know how to do this. What's wrong with you? You're punk. You're weak. You're a wimp like your mom. You're a girl. You're feminine. You're a female. You don't know how to drive a truck. So the boy's like, well, I don't want to be looked at as a weak, feminine female. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up about Kwame. It's not just so much that he's always saying women need to stay in women's place, which it's the fact that every time he's critiquing another one of the men, he compares them to women, as if being a woman is the absolute worst thing you could ever be. And it makes you wonder, how could a man like this ever be attracted to a woman when you find feminine characteristics so repulsive? So like when Stephen A. Smith is going off, blah, 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 he's like, running your mouth like a female, running your mouth like a girl, running your mouth like a woman. That's feminine. That's female stuff. That's girl stuff. And you know what my position is lately? My position is, no, that's man stuff. That's how men behave. That's how y'all act. You're always talking about each other when you're talking about it. You're never saying you're acting like this woman over here. You're never saying, oh, you're acting like Beyonce. Oh, you're acting like Kelly Rowland. Oh, you're acting like Michelle Obama right now. Oh, they never say that. They're always talking about each other when they're comparing them to female characteristics. Honey, it's not us that's feminine, it's you. This is masculinity on display. Arguing all the time, getting emotional, bickering, going back and forth. And then when y'all can't use your words to solve problems, you fight and get violent. That's very masculine. So stop saying that's feminine traits. It's not. That's y'all. That's what you do. But anyway, so Satan lets his 14-year-old drive the truck with a beer in his hand. The 14-year-old sends it right into a telephone pole, totals the truck, and hurts them both. They have to go to the hospital and get some stitches. So that's the type of dad that Satan is. Satan wants no restrictions, no rules, doesn't want to follow the rules of the house that the mom has set, and ends up getting his kids hurt and in trouble all the time because of that. He's never been able to handle the rule set and the rule system. Never. And he's incredibly profoundly jealous of his wife, which could be a separate stream all by itself. Completely separate stream. The jealousy of her in general, period, of what she's able to do, of what she's able to create, of what she had created before he showed up. Always been trying to compete with his wife, which is also part of it. And also why he's constantly trying to set up mimicries and mockeries of her creation to say, I can do it too. Look at me, I can do it too. But one house is made of stone and one house is made of sand. You just can't tell on the outside until you try the door. And then the door on the iron house stands and the door on the sand house crumbles. So that's essentially what we're dealing with here, guys. We're dealing with an iron house and a sand house, is what we're dealing with. And many people choose every day the sand house, the sand castle. Many people choose the sand castle every day. Many people will choose the sand castle for eternity. And just like a sand castle, it looks great. It looks quite solid until you test it and it falls apart. But by then it'll be too late. So I know that's a lot. I know I just dumped a lot on you guys. Let me see if I covered everything in my notes. Yeah, pretty much. I will. It says, please do a stream of the devil's jealousy for God. I will. I will, because you need to understand it profoundly. Because once you fully understand and process the jealousy, it helps you understand the contempt. So much contempt. And contempt really is, why don't we look up the actual word so I can tell you accurately? Oh, yeah. Let me show you this. Contempt. Contempt is the feeling that a person or thing is beneath consideration, worthless, or deserving scorn. Beneath consideration, worthless, or deserving scorn. So, what I've been trying to tell you earlier in the stream is currently there is a movement to encourage men to see women as beneath consideration, worthless, and deserving scorn. And when something is beneath consideration, worthless, and deserving scorn, what do you typically do to it? Typically, you get rid of it. For example, many years ago, I bought a wireless keyboard for my iPad. And that was years ago. And that keyboard has been through many, many moves. So it's really not the keyboard's fault. It's mine, but that's neither here nor there. Well, I found it, plugged it up, and I was like, yes, I have another keyboard. Let it charge for like 6 hours, came back, still wasn't working. And I was so irritated. I was like, oh my God, you're totally useless. Took the little keyboard, threw it in the trash. I got rid of it because it was no longer worth my consideration. It had become worthless and it was deserving of my scorn. Now, because I've recognized that some people can't hear my humor, I'm being sarcastic, guys, and kind of funny. You know, ha 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 ha. Yes, I threw the keyboard away. Yes, I called it worthless. But no, I wasn't like, worthless keyboard, not worth my time. In the trash you go. No, I unplugged it. I was like, you're still not working. You're worthless. In the trash you went. But anyway, I clarify for those of you who have trouble hearing humor and sarcasm, y'all need help. I'm going to pray for you. But my point is, when the moment that I felt something was beneath consideration, worthless, and deserving scorn, I threw it away. And that's why I said to the ladies listening earlier that you need to rethink your position about firearms, because it seems like this is their goal, disposal. And I could be wrong about that, but stranger things have happened. And what a show that will be. What I'm waiting for now is their march. I'm pretty sure they've got to put together some type of march, the anti-woman march, AWM, or, you know, the Black Manosphere will probably put together the anti-Black women march, ABWM, and how foolish they'll look on display for the whole entire world to see. And I can't wait, because essentially they're marking themselves, because understand that God considers that treason and considers them all infidels. You understand? And God doesn't like that because that's what started all this mess. What started this mess was treason, traitors, and infidels, angels that turned on God. It's one thing for Satan to turn on God, which leads me to believe Satan was an outside entity. And where did it come from? But anyway, it's one thing for Satan to turn on God. It's entirely another thing for the angels that were with God from the beginning to turn on her. So that's why treason and a lack of loyalty and being an infidel is so personal to the Lord. So they're all going to get destroyed and have been lately if you've been paying attention to the news. Pay attention. Let's see. I'm just scrolling your comments. Yeah. Yeah. So here, let me switch screens really quick. So this is kind of an after show. We're in after show mode because they might do this chat the same way they did the other one. So those of you in the chat currently and those listening on playback, there's a strong possibility this live chat will never appear. So there's nothing I can do about it on my end except ask them to turn it on, which they may or may not. But it typically takes about 10 hours anyway to upload, which is ridiculous. So just be aware of that. So speaking on Kwame, it says it's getting out of control at this point. He went from males need to man up to women hate. Yeah, because he's best friends with Tommy Sotomayor. And I watched the opening of their interview together, and Tommy starts the interview by saying, "Wow, I didn't know that you knew me. Tell me how you know about me. Tell me what's the first thing you heard about me. What do you like about me?" It was like, wow. Like, wow, so you've heard of me? Where did you hear about me? What was the first video you saw? Yeah, what did you think? Like, but what more could we expect from Tommy, right? But and Kwame's response was, "Well, I like you because you're saying everything that we want to say. And you're saying everything that's on all of our minds, but we can't say it out in public or we'll get canceled." So in other words, he sympathizes and empathizes with Tommy Sotomayor, one of the most hateful Black men on YouTube, toward Black women specifically. You sympathize with him, huh? He's your mouthpiece. He's your speaker. He's your spokesperson for your innermost thoughts. Thank you for continuing to run your mouth until that character came out. And that would be a good takeaway from this whole thing. When someone comes out at first and they're sounding real good and making a lot of sense, just let them keep running their mouth, honey. It doesn't take long. I would say anywhere between, I would actually say 30 days or less. If you let them run their mouth for 30 days or less, that character will come out. Oh, he's ghosting Tom. Oh, really? Says he's ghosting Tommy now, trying to separate himself. Really? Probably from the wind he felt from that backlash. Because it's like, understand at first, dang, this should be a separate show, but I don't care. Who cares? We're an after show. Understand at first that I think a lot of women were drawn to Kwame because he was bringing new attention to the Jessica Reed situation, which is the situation with Charlemagne the God, putting Spanish fly in this girl's drink and taking advantage of her. And he admitted to all of which. I don't have to say allegedly because he confessed to all of this on a podcast, even had charges brought up. The mother decided not to go through with it because she didn't want to re-traumatize her daughter. So that story got buried. Charlemagne went on with this amazing career. So then for Kwame to come back a couple of years later and unearth it and bring it back to life, a lot of women were like, thank you for standing up for women. Like, this girl never really got her justice. Thank you for calling them out. And we were all applauding at first. And then it shifted somehow to the Kwame Brown teaches women how to be women show. And you know what else is we're on a deeper PTE, so I can go there. What else has got my antennas up is the repetition of this whole mama's cooking thing. Yeah, very cute at first. Ooh, got him with the mama's cooking. Ooh. But every other sentence though? Every few minutes with the hand gesture and everything? Is this hypnosis of some kind? Is this a brainwashing campaign of some kind? Very interesting. And I'm actually not the first YouTuber who called it out. I would shout them out, but they're they're different and special. So I'm just going to be quiet. But there's a YouTuber that I do watch frequently, and he was the first one to say that he didn't trust it. And I was like, huh, really? Why not? Like, I'm like, really? Because to me, this YouTuber, it's Hassan Campbell. I'll just say it. Who cares? Hassan Campbell was the first one I saw say he didn't trust this whole Kwame Brown situation. And my thought was, really? Because he sounds a lot like you a lot of the time in terms of like talking about Charlemagne and all the, boule, if you will. How come you don't trust it? The more I listened, the more I understood. I was like, oh, here we go with the repetition. Here we go with the hypnosis of a kind. Um, here we go. Interesting. And now I can't stop watching simply because I'm fortifying my theory because it'll come out of nowhere, man. Like, for example, and let me make sure I'm right about this. Is Jamel Hill is a woman, correct? Because every time they talk about this person, they go back and forth between saying he and she. Okay, Jamel Hill is a woman, definitely. So Jamel Hill will come up. Apparently, she had something to say about the situation. And instead of him just commenting on what she said and moving on, it always turns into this massive lecture about women's place and where women need to sit and be, if that makes sense. It doesn't fit. It really doesn't fit, you guys. It's misplaced, and that's what raises my antennas on it. All right, let's keep going. My antennas are all the way up. Interesting that he's trying to distance himself now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gender war agenda. The gender war. And again, with any war, there's a goal. People don't just go to war for fun because war is an expenditure of resources. So to expend this much time, effort, and energy on this, it makes me wonder why. What is the end goal? What is the purpose of this? Okay, some people might say depopulation. They want to tear up relations between men and women, so men and women will have fewer children, so we can control population that way. Okay, that's one way to do it, but in the meantime, the men and women that are here are starting to really not like each other. So you might get your population control, but you also have another situation brewing on the phone. Did I say on the phone? You got another situation brewing. I think I was reading a comment that had the word phone in it. Yeah, something is. It says, I woke up saying there's something about to go down. It will be like a draft or some form of lockdown. Something's coming, right? And one of the favorite threats from this crew is when the lights go out, every woman going to want a man, and you're going to wish you hadn't been independent then. You're going to wish you hadn't been so independent when the lights go out because then you're going to run to a man. So essentially, the threat is submit to me, turn yourself over to me. So in the event the lights go out, you'll have me here. And my answer is typically, boy, you'll probably be what I call the FTG, the first to go. They're going to take you out first. They aim for the men first because they know y'all are a problem. So you're an FTG as far as I'm concerned. I might be able to negotiate my way out of something once you get past the firearms. Let's see here. If you get past the firearms. Let's see here. Let's keep scrolling. I will. I will. I was actually, so it says, please do a stream dedicated to this PTE. I've been trying to warn people for years, but of course, my dark skin is just bitter and angry. I was thinking about, I was thinking, y'all know me, y'all know I'll birth another channel in a heartbeat. I was thinking about doing a channel called a Blacker PTE. Where I discuss issues affecting the African American and Black community and diaspora specifically, and just leaving PTE quite general for everybody, and then doing a channel separate, because we have some things we have to talk about, and I can't keep quiet on anymore. I have to join the conversation because something is brewing and I can't quite put my finger on it, but what I feel inside is you have to try to save as many minds and souls as you possibly can. Like, so many people are getting swept into this thing, and there's not a lot of counterbalancing forces out there. Like, there's some strong counterbalancers out there, but their issue is they're immature. So they'll start calling them names when they run out of ammunition. Honey, I've got ammunition for days. I can go a long time without calling you names. I can argue with you for hours without calling you names on principles and facts alone. But the people who are putting in the heavy work right now, they run out of ammo real quick, and then they just revert to name calling, which weakens their argument. They need somebody with a stronger argument and who can sit there and withstand it all and not care. Like, all the insults, all the degradation, like, throw it all. I don't care, because you're going to hear what I have to say. You are. So I'm thinking about starting a channel called A Blacker PTE. But I don't know about that title though. The title of that channel. All right. Satan lives right here on earth. The question in the chat is, where does Satan live? Right here on earth. Right here on earth, recruiting. Because, see, God is so generous that instead of destroy Satan entirely, God is going to cast Satan out and all his children and angels into outer darkness for 1,000 years. Then she's going to destroy him entirely. So basically, for 1,000 years, they get to be together and hang out and live the life they've always dreamed of together. Then she's going to destroy him. Let's see. Oh, I'm so glad. It says, this theory changed my entire spiritual outlook when you first shared it. So glad you've elaborated. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you understand it. And when you start to really listen to it all through the lens of this theory, I'm telling you, it all makes so much more sense. It makes so much more sense. It makes so much more sense. Let's see. All right. So I think we are good. I think I've gotten out the majority of the points that I wanted to make. You know, honestly, it says, PTE, I'd love to see your facial expressions when watching them. I think you were talking about those videos and things. I think if I ever did develop a Blacker PTE, I think I'd have to come on camera, because all they'll sit there and do is say, oh, she's just a hair hat. Oh, she's 300 pounds. Oh, she's this. Oh, she's ugly. Oh, she's this, she's that. So the first thing I have to do is come on and shatter all of their stereotypes and expectations. So when they don't have that ammunition, then they're going to have to rely on other ammunition. So, but without them seeing me, that would be their primary thing. Oh, she doesn't come on camera, so you don't even have a fight because we can't even look at you and see what you look like. You probably not even high value. You probably low value. So, you know, But the thing that will get them the most, above all other things, is the hair, y'all. The hair will get them and destroy them and crush their very soul. It'll crush their soul because so much of their ministry is built on Black women's hair that when they see a Black woman who actually has some, what can you say? What you gonna call me? You gonna call me hair hat? Can't do that. Got more hair than you. I actually have enough hair for all of y'all who be complaining about our hair. I have some to donate and still have some left over. That's half of why they're so angry. Most of them are bald and balding. But that's a different show, guys. I might have to do a whole nother show on hair. Lord have mercy. Okay? So y'all like the A Blacker PTE, right? I think I need to do it. I need to join the conversation. It's just, I'm very aware of the flood. And I've been living real peaceful like this past year and a half, man. My life has been so peaceful. And I don't know if I feel like being bothered, but I feel like this is a fight that's being lost, mainly because of their persistence and their relentlessness. And they need to meet somebody who really honestly has time. I do. And finds it enjoyable. Kind of how, half of them hate cats because they say cats chase and kill things for fun. Similar vibes. Same. And with that, you guys, I'm going to get out of here. And I appreciate you all joining me over here. I'm sure I'll be making my way back to PTE. By the way, for those of you who are over here who might be mods on PTE, I think I'm going to go back to my original plan at the start of the year and have no moderators on PTE. And there's a couple reasons. There's nothing wrong. No one did anything bad. I think I just want it to be kind of like how it is over here. So like, you see how there's no mods over here? I feel like everyone's a little bit more free over here. That could be a perception issue, but it is something I was thinking about at the start of the year. So if you bounce back over to permission to exist and you notice your wrench is gone, you didn't get in trouble. I'm just going back to probably a moderator-free chat, at least for a little while. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, okay? But with that, y'all, I'm going to take off. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll talk to you again very soon, okay? Bye.